Our Revolution Nashville. We are here live. This is Our Revolution Nashville in Middle Tennessee. We are outside Representative Jim Cooper's office. It is Friday at noon, and that means it is time for the People's Agenda.
I play in a band called The Continuous. We are focused on inspiring positive change through music and art. So I am here today to inspire people on the street and inspire all of you. Thank you to everyone who showed up. So the first song is called Change is Coming. I wrote this for a songwriting competition called Songs for Good. I won't say anymore, I'll just go ahead and play it. I'm gonna have you guys stomp and clap with me. Does that sound like fun? Woo! So we're gonna start with, I'll just ring. Here we go. Come on, everyone who can. Yeah. Keep it going. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for democracy. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for everybody. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for democracy. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for everybody. Change the people, we need love. To save the oceans, we need love. To save the people, we need love. To save the planet, we need love. We need love. We need love. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for democracy. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for everybody. To save the oceans, we need hope. To find equality, we need hope. To find justice, we need hope. To find each other, we need hope. We need hope. We need hope. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for democracy. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for everybody. Love is here within us all. Peace is on the horizon. Change is just beyond the wall. We'll tear it down together. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for democracy. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for everybody. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for democracy. Change is coming, can't you see? The change we need for everybody.
How about that? How about that? All right. Thank you, Tommy. And you'll be back for 2 more songs, won't you? All right, the highlights. All right, our first speaker.
Wait, you gotta give the whole spiel. And Channel 4 is here, so maybe.
Oh, Channel 4's here? The whole spiel? The whole spiel of... the whole spiel of what? Oh, okay. All right. Now, first of all, before we get to our first speaker, she said, I gotta get the whole spiel. All right, so why are we out here? Well, we want to do whatever we can to encourage Mr. Cooper to do what we're asking. We're here as part of the People's Agenda. We are part of a coalition of progressive groups. So, raise your hand if you're with Indivisible. Raise your hand if you're with Our Revolution. Raise your hand if you're with Veterans of Peace. And Our Revolution and a variety of them. And Raise your hand if you're for racial justice. Yes. Raise your hand if you're here from Sunrise. Raise your hand if you're from musicians. Musicians for. Raise your hand if you're from Moms Demand Action. And Medicare for All. Medicare for All. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we've got the people's agenda. You know what the people's agenda? It's a recipe for success. Because we do know that we want the Democrats to win. Because the other side is the dark side. We know that. We've given up on them. They've got nothing to say. All you have to do is listen to those people up on the hill. They got nothing. So we're here to encourage. We got a recipe of success. And all Cooper has to do is listen to the people's agenda and get on board with our people's agenda. Now we're going to have okay? All right, now we're going to have a variety of speakers, starting off with Afton Ben, who is talking about DC statehood. And that helps us. That helps us here in Middle Tennessee. Tell us why, Afton.
All right. A big thank you to everyone for showing up today. These groups have been organizing together for years now, and it's so great to see all of you post-pandemic. Kathy and Audrey and Brent, everyone. I'm just so grateful. DC is not a state, and a few things. One, who can tell me why the Senate exists? I just have a little question for you.
Representation.
Right. And but what it was used for was to codify white supremacy. And the Senate, if we did add DC as a state, it would be the first plurality black state in the country. Now, here's the second piece. Jim Cooper sits on the House Oversight Committee. DC statehood will be up for a vote on April 14th. Last year during his primary, he voiced support for DC statehood, but has yet to co-sponsor the bill. So as we know, we need to pressure him. April 14th, it's going to go to a vote. It is in his committee, and we really need him to step up because this is a racial justice issue. This is a racial equity issue. DC deserves to be a state just like the rest of us. So, Jim Cooper, support DC statehood, or I'm going to keep trolling you. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Afton. All right, now we have Kristen Grimm with Mothers for Medicare for All, but she's going to be talking about the importance of Medicare for All.
All right. Thank you for being here today. Everyone here is so important to the movement of justice in every realm of public policy. I'm the founder of Mothers for Medicare for All. On October 4th, I decided to take our mission to the streets, and we started standing here on the street right here. We stood here for 19 Fridays, every Friday, with a Friday action plan, calling on Jim Cooper at the time to co-sponsor HR 1384, Medicare for All legislation. Before the pandemic happened, we stood here in the rain, the snow, the sleet, and anyway, I prepared a little statement today because now we've got a new bill rolling over in Congress, HR 1976. He did not sign on to HR 1384. He did sign on in 2017 to the Medicare for All legislation. He's waffling on health care. We need our legislators, our leaders in this country to not waffle on anything in regards to health care. We need comprehensive health care reform. So here's my little speech that I wrote from the bottom of my heart as a mom and a concerned citizen. So I'm going to say to everyone, beloved Tennesseans, for decades, and even before the New Deal, members of Congress and special interest groups have been impeding universal health care in the United States of America.
Right.
Representative Jim Cooper is not unique. There are members of Congress all over this country who say that health care is a human right, but they refuse to sign on to the only legislation that guarantees health care as a human right. There are members of Congress all over this country that signed on to Medicare for All legislation in 2017, but have refused to support the consecutive Medicare for All legislation proposed bills in 2019 and now in 2021. I am the mother of one of the bravest people I've ever known. I am a mother who has walked the halls of children's hospitals with my uninsured son and my uninsured and underinsured son, who was born with a chronic health condition that has caused him to have 24 surgeries up to this point. In 2017, I was one of the mothers who fought to save the Affordable Care Act. I literally wore holes in my shoes fighting for Medicaid expansion for Tennesseans in 2018. As a healthcare advocate who walks with the vulnerable in lived experiences, I came to realize that Medicaid expansion is a necessary and moral policy decision for every state. But the Affordable Care Act, even though it has done so much good for many people, it still leaves people like my son and so many millions of people behind.
Right.
I came to realize that the for-profit health insurance companies have created a red tape, destructive breakdown in our ability to care for their sickest members of society. All of this dysfunction is allowed by our lawmakers who legislatively support a for-profit healthcare system to have autonomy over our health. All of this policy dysfunction is hurting kids like my son and the very structures of our Medicaid and Medicare programs. Representative Cooper claims to have an extensive understanding of public policy. But no matter what he learns from a book or in an academic study, he will never understand what it's like to have a child who is so sick and have to live through his employer-based insurance failing the needs of his very sick child. He will never know what it is like to walk to his mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon and open a collections debt notice from a children's hospital. He will never fully understand through lived experience how parents of very sick children have to fight with their employer-based insurance to get the care that their children need. He will never understand through lived experience how my son's pediatric specialty care nurses have to spend around 3 hours a day fighting with state Medicaid offices and employer-based insurance companies to get approval for the physician-prescribed care for their patients. You see, we have a dirty little secret in this country. Parents in every state on a daily basis receive letters in the mail from debt collection agencies that are hired by children's hospitals. That's right, you heard me. Every day in this country, children's hospitals send families to collections. It is immoral, and only members of Congress can stop this. Here is what we know for sure. Politicians love to have mothers testify in Congress to beg their leaders for half measures and incomplete healthcare policies that do not fully protect our families from medical bankruptcy and guaranteed healthcare as a human right. I've come to believe that what we ask of these mothers is barbaric. In no other advanced nation in the world do mothers have to beg their leaders for their child's dignity to live and thrive. And this is why, starting in October 2019, our organization began standing in front of this office for 19 days until the pandemic swept this nation. Mostly, I stood alone, or with a few mothers for our Friday call to action. Unsurprisingly, I was greatly ignored. Being ignored did not deter me, because here's the truth. Mothers are used to being ignored. We stood right here for 19 Fridays in the rain, the snow, the freezing cold, because Representative Cooper is the only member of Congress in the state of Tennessee who says that he believes that healthcare is a human right. He is the only member of Congress in the state of Tennessee who says that healthcare is a human right, yet refuses to sign on to the only legislation that will guarantee healthcare as a human right. Here is what all members of Congress need to know. Mothers are sick, and tired of being used for our stories to fight for things that don't fully protect our children. The Affordable Care Act was a bridge to universal health care, but as long as the Affordable Care Act is based in the for-profit health insurance industry, we will never see comprehensive health care reform in this country as it should be. Why are we the only advanced nation in the world that refuses to have a universal health program? Members of Congress, we are asking all of you. We are asking you, Representative Cooper, why is this so? How barbaric is a country that asks mothers to walk the floors of children's hospitals, to stand in front of their leads, only to stand in front of their leaders' offices and beg them for the mercy of healthcare for their kids? How barbaric is our country to use mothers to testify in Congress to fight for things that do not fully protect our children? How barbaric is a country that impedes medical discovery at every turn while hindering the brilliance of doctors all over this country to find cures for kids like my son, because state Medicaid programs and employer-based insurance have been given autonomy to deny the best medical practices our doctors prescribed. These for-profit health industries and companies could care less if we lose our savings, our houses, to pay for what they, on a whim, decide to deny. Why do our leaders protect these companies over our families? How barbaric are we as a country for leaders to look at mothers and act like we do not exist when we demand universal health care for our children? How barbaric is a country that looks at us and says that what we're fighting for is not possible, when we know it is possible because it is done in every other advanced nation in the world? How barbaric is it of a country that there are parents today who have employer-based insurance that refuses to cover the medication that their doctors will prescribe for their children? How barbaric is it of our country that we find it acceptable that a mother or father somewhere today in the United States will drive through a pharmacy drive-through and have their debit card or credit card declined because the medication that was prescribed for their child was too expensive because it wasn't covered by insurance? Any leader that tries to convince this country that employer-based insurance must remain as the norm in this country is normalizing the suffering of our families and our children and the beautiful people in this nation. How long will mothers have to stand in front of our leaders and beg them for health care for our kids? Mothers are some of the bravest and most tired, exhausted people on the planet, yet we ask mothers to walk the halls of children's hospitals and then walk the halls of Congress and beg for policy crumbs. How dare any leader look at us and tell us that the lives of our children do not matter with their silence and unwillingness to do what is right? Our nation has a dirty little secret. We bankrupt families with sick kids. We force families into poverty to make sure that they are eligible for Medicaid when their kids get sick, too sick. Most people think that all medical debt to children's hospitals is automatically forgiven by charity care. They're wrong. It is not true, and this must change. You see our kids growing up, but my son will always be my son. He will need a lifetime of health care in a way no academic will ever live and understand unless they've been through it. Our families have dignity, and we don't want people to know how much debt we owe a children's hospital. But we bear our personal finances to the public to make a difference. How dare the leaders of this nation require us to do these things just to make an incremental difference when our leaders have the power to make this right and pass Medicare for all? Representative Cooper, you like to talk about Medicaid expansion because that's easy, and the Affordable Care Act is already the law of the land. If the Affordable Care Act was in jeopardy of being repealed as a mother, I would try to save it again because it's the best we've got. As a mother, and as the founder of Mothers for Medicare for All, I don't want policy crumbs for my family or my country. People are dying in this country because we do not have the moral courage to do what is right. I want our leaders to understand that today, and every day that we stood in front of this office, we stood with a mother's love. We melted the hearts of people who passed by. We believe that a mother's love is strong enough to change the nation and the hearts of our leaders. I was once given the honor and privilege of meeting with Representative Cooper's Chief of Staff, Lisa Quigley. In his conference room, everyone listen to this. When I walked into the conference room to meet with Lisa Quigley, I couldn't help but to notice the most beautiful picture hanging on the wall of President Roosevelt and Eleanor Roosevelt in a motorcade. I couldn't help but to think, what would Eleanor Roosevelt think about Representative Cooper standing in the way of universal human rights here in the United States? I brought Eleanor with me. Please give her a round of applause. So we stand out here today to let Representative Cooper know that Eleanor Roosevelt is watching and she is perplexed. Representative Cooper, what would you do if Eleanor Roosevelt walked into your office today? What would you tell her? As mothers, we ask again that the Representative Cooper sign on to H.R. 1976 in support of Medicare for All. We ask him to be consistent with his own words in his policy positions for the good of all. He says healthcare is a human right. We expect him to legislate accordingly. Representative Cooper, will you help us make the dream of Eleanor Roosevelt become a reality by helping us pass Medicare for All that will finally make healthcare a universal human right in this country? As we leave you today, as I leave you today, I leave with a quote. And I want Representative Cooper to think of the mothers who are walking the floors of children's hospitals today as you listen. Because in the emergency rooms and the small hospital rooms that we have sat with our children in, this is where we understood for the first time that healthcare should be a human right in the wealthiest country in the world. Eleanor Roosevelt said this, "Where, after all, do universal rights begin?" In small places, close to home, so close and so small that they cannot be seen on any maps of the world. The things we have experienced as mothers while taking care of our kids when they are sick will mostly never be seen by the world. But these moments are what causes us to fight with all our love. These unseen hours is what causes us to keep going and never give up on changing your heart, Representative Cooper, for the sake of what is doing right for all, for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kristen. And of course, Kristen was the example that got us from Veterans for Peace to start every Friday at noon. And we will continue next week. I know the crowd might not be as big, but we'll still be here. Yeah. All right. Next on the agenda, Rick Heron from Sunrise. He's on the interview? Okay. Well then, next on the agenda, Audrey Tessie, Criminal Racial Justice Reform.
This is Our Revolution. We are live downtown Nashville outside Representative Jim Cooper's office for Friday's People's Agenda.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. It's good to be here. I'm using my phone for notes because I'm a millennial. But yeah, so my name is Audrey Tessie, and I'm an activist here in Nashville, and I'm just going to speak a little bit about racial and criminal justice reform. So, I'm sorry? Oh, okay, there you go. So there are several issues that are plaguing the Black community disproportionately more than the white community. They include job unemployment, lack of access to quality health care, as we just heard Ms. Grimm eloquently speak about Medicare for All, lack of a quality education, voter suppression, and countless others. In the first half of 2019, the unemployment rate for the Black community was a little over 6%, and as opposed to whites, where it was a little over 3%. But unfortunately, the pandemic has only worsened this issue with job unemployment, in which it has definitely negatively impacted the Black community. In fact, in July of this past year, 2020,
that's good. Hold the sign.
About 9% of whites were unemployed compared to Blacks, where it was over 14%. These unemployment rates before and during the pandemic serves as a reason why Congressman Cooper should sign on to the Federal Jobs Guarantee Resolution, which would ensure that everyone, especially African Americans, will have access to a quality job with health care benefits and livable wages, among other things. It would also create a pathway to stable employment and assist in closing the racial wealth gap between between the black and white community. In regards to police brutality and the higher incarceration rates, there are various studies that have found that black people are more likely to experience various types of forces by the police, which include being pepper sprayed, being pushed to the ground by a police officer, or being handcuffed without arrest. The probability of being an unarmed black person shot by police is about 3.5 times the probability of being an unarmed white person being shot by police. Not only that, but African Americans are being incarcerated in state prisons across the country at more than 5 times the rates than that of whites. But so a promising solution to ending police brutality and these high incarceration rates is for Congressman Cooper to push for and sign on to the BREATHE Act. The BREATHE Act would provide a complete and total change in public safety, community care, and societal spending. If passed, there are several things in which it would be able to do, which include the following: divesting federal resources from policing and incarceration, and investing in safer, non-punitive, non-carceral approaches to community safety that would downsize the criminal legal systems and center the protection of black people and other communities too. It would also allocate money to build healthy and equitable communities, especially within the black community. In regards to lack of adequate health care, Black Americans constitute about 23% of COVID deaths, even though we make up around 13% of the U.S. population. And this is partly due to the failure of our healthcare system to provide adequate health insurance for the black community. And other communities, but especially the black community. If we were to get Medicare for all pushed and signed up, to get Congressman Cooper, well, I wish he would have signed on to it, a few weeks ago, but it would guarantee that everyone in the U.S., especially the black community, would receive adequate and quality health care, and also support the health and economic security of the black community. So these are just, a couple of reasons, there are many more, but just some reasons as to why Congressman Cooper should have signed on to the Medicare for All bill this cycle. So hopefully we got him to sign on to it next time. We just have to continue pushing for it. So these are just a couple of issues negatively impacting the black community. And if Cooper is seeking to address these issues, especially, around the country, but especially here in the 5th District, then he would push for and sign on to these policies that I just named, in addition to other transformational policies, such as student debt cancellation, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, the Green New Deal, investing in public education, and many others. So, it's great that we're doing this, and hopefully Cooper hears us and sees us and, pushes and signs on to these policies. Thank you.
All right, and Rick is still being interviewed. I can't wait for the next 60 Minutes episode when he's going to be on, apparently. That's great. All right. So, we can either jump to Carol Frazier with Moms Demand Action, or we can hear a song from Tommy. Carol? Tommy. All right, Carol, come on up.
Yeah, Carol!
Okay, I hate talking with this thing on. Excuse me? But we have to, so there you go. I'm with Moms Demand Action. I've been a volunteer for several years. And for those of you guys that don't know, Moms Demand Action is a grassroots movement of Americans. And we're not just moms, and we're not just women. In fact, we kind of tease with the guys that they're man enough to be a mom, and that is so true. So we have educators, women, men, military officers, law enforcement, governors, business owners, people from every sector fighting for public safety measures that can protect people from gun violence. We have chapters in every state and several in most states, especially here in Tennessee. And we also work on establishing a culture of responsible gun ownership by teaching gun safety through our Be Smart program, which is safe gun storage. So it started back in the day after Sandy Hook in 2012, when we had a horrible event there. And Shannon Watts, our founder, got up the next morning and started a Facebook group just so people could share how they were feeling. And it just grew, it exploded. And now we have millions of volunteers all over the country. We're part of every town for gun safety. We've aligned ourselves with Students for Gun Sense, Demand Action for Gun Sense. We have a survivors network that we support, and it's just amazing. So I've been called here to talk about federal legislation, so I'm just going to go through it really quickly. Gun violence has only grown worse over the past year. Most of you guys know that, and you can imagine there's so much fear, anxiety, political polarization, job insecurity, housing insecurity, and it's just heartbreaking to see what's happened in the last 2 weeks in this country. Here in Tennessee, we've seen a 46% increase in gun purchases during the last year. And into this frightening mix, our Republicans at the Hill decided it was a great idea to pass a bill that makes carrying a gun in public easier than getting a driver's license by passing permitless carry. This increases the risk to us, our families, our communities. Basically, someone could be standing next to you with a gun in their pocket that has had no shooting training and no gun safety education at all. Thank you, Governor Lee. But, you know, we may have lost this battle, but we are plodding ahead. We've only increased our connections with law enforcement, faith leaders, and business owners. And we are looking forward to moving forward with this, and we're very optimistic about it. So, on the federal level, amazingly, we have a gun sense majority that's been elected in the House, and we have several bills. So background checks is a big one. There are 2 background checks that we're trying to pass, bills we're trying to pass. One is H.R. 8. That means background checks on all gun sales and transfers, not just licensed gun dealers. I don't know if you know, but through these online firearms websites, we have about 1.2 million ads offering firearms for sale that do not legally require a background check. We can tighten loopholes. We have ways to do this. We know how to do it. We can stop more felons, more domestic abusers, and more mentally ill people from acquiring a gun. There's also another bill, H.R. 1446, that closes what's called the Charleston loophole, which says that if a background check is not completed in 3 days, that a gun can be sold to the person. Last year, thousands of guns were sold to prohibited purchases because of this. This is why, exactly the reason, we lost 9 people at Mother Emanuel AME Church in 2015. That shooter would have been barred from having any guns if the loophole had not been there. So this bill increases the waiting time from 3 to a minimum of 10. It does have due process components to it. It increases the accountability of law enforcement agencies to provide data and information about what is going on out there. And, you know, we know that during the time of COVID, we had so many more background checks being processed that it literally caused a backlog. That's why we need to get rid of the 3 days. So thoughts and prayers are not the answer to our gun violence problem. We're not denying that we shouldn't pray, okay? But they're not the answer to the problem that takes the lives of 100 Americans daily. It's been 25 years since the federal government passed a safety law, gun safety law, and that was the federal assault weapons ban that expired 10 years later. But we know that 90% of Americans want this bill to go through. It is a mandate. Preventing gun violence is not a partisan issue. It's a human health issue. It's life and it's a death issue. Because of loopholes in our current laws, nearly a quarter of Americans, because of loopholes, nearly a quarter of Americans who obtain firearms, that's 25%, do so without getting a background check. That includes criminals, domestic abusers, and others prohibited buyers. We're also looking at extreme risk law. Red flag law is basically what you heard it called. 87% of Americans support this. We need to intervene before tragedy strikes. This allows family and law enforcement to basically ask a court, so there's a lot of due process, to temporarily suspend a person's access to guns when there's evidence they pose a danger to themselves and others. We've got the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, and that's reducing police violence. We've got reauthorizing Violence Against Women Act, which means disarming domestic abusers. So we are working to build relationships with senators as well as other partners so that our senators realize this is a winning issue for them. This is a go in the House. Jim Cooper is on it, okay? But we have got to all engage with our senators, even if we don't think they care about this act. We want to have a bill with bipartisan support, but I will tell you, this is going to happen. And we can only hope that they will join us. Republicans say that this infringes on the rights to bear arms given in the Second Amendment. Now, we could argue about that. We could also argue about what the phrase "a well-regulated militia" means. But it comes down to this: without common sense gun legislation passed, the rights of every American to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are being infringed on. What is the higher priority? This was part of the Democratic platform and President Joe Biden's priorities that were victorious in 2020. And we are so thankful for him for leading in this issue. We are mobilizing volunteers all over the U.S. to bring this issue to the American people and to our representatives in Washington. And together we can see that it is done.
That was very timely, of course. It's United States. Now, for the people in the press that are taking pictures, make sure you get a picture to sign right up here, because that's where we're at. We're here to encourage and to push Congressman Cooper to do what he should be doing. Thank you. Thank you. And now, we are at intermission, so Tommy, are you ready? Where's Tommy?
This is Our Revolution, Nashville and Middle Tennessee. We are here live outside Representative Jim Cooper's office. It is Friday, and that means it's time to fight for the people's agenda.
Now, there's also, while we're waiting on Tommy, oh, here he comes. But there's signs up there. I'm sure we're going to give those away. You can make signs. There's also going to be some food, but let's get our speakers taken care of. All right. Oh, what do you got a megaphone?
Just for the beginning of this. Check, hey. Can you hear me? Yeah! Alrighty. So I'm a pretty well-reserved person. I'm pretty introverted. I like to keep to myself. But I love being loud! Especially with a megaphone!
Megaphone!
So we're gonna be loud for a second. You guys ready to have some fun with me? Alrighty, so go ahead and repeat after me. They will never take away!
They will never take away
the strength in our unity!
unity.
And all of us who stand as one
All of us who stand as one
will fight for one more day!
will fight for one more day. Nice.
Yeah. So this one's called Unity, and as you can tell, it's about power to the people. will never take away the strength in our unity. And all of us who stand as one will fight for one more day. Time is running out, do you feel the urgency? The clock is counting down till the day we cut the final tree. Do they care at all, or is profit all the greedy need? When the profits fall, will there be enough left for humanity? They will never take away the strength in our unity. And all of us who stand as one will fight for one more day. When the waters rise and the people close to sea must flee, will we hear their cries and declare a state of emergency? Forgot the verse. We'll go to the chorus. They will never take away the strength in our unity. And all of us who stand as one will fight for one more day. They will never take away the strength in our unity. And all of us who stand as one will fight for one more day. Sing it with me. They will never take away the strength in our unity. And all of us who stand as one will fight for one more day.
All right. All right, very good. Thanks, Tommy. And he's got one more song. Now, our next speaker is Kat Carrillo, and she's going to talk about.
Hi everybody, it's so good to see your faces. We're standing outside Jim Cooper's office right now, and I did not think that it would have been a full year before I would see so many of you out here. And so I'm so grateful for that. Raise your hand if you're vaccinated. Amazing. Oh, I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. I don't think many people know about what's happening in immigration, because there's so many more issues that are coming up right now, and all of them are equally important. But when COVID hit, when the pandemic hit, it meant something different for our community. 1 out of 3 Latinos in Tennessee were being infected by COVID. And it's because they make up so much of the workforce, so much of the construction, so much of the housekeeping, so much of the gardening, so much of the caretakers of this city. And even still, undocumented workers and documented families were not eligible to receive any kind of stimulus support from this nation. This city has ignored undocumented workers, has ignored Latino workers time after time, allowing them to continue to be hurt. This state has tried to criminalize us time after time, trying to pass bills. We see it happening all over the South. This nation can no longer continue to ignore us and ignore our families and ignore our mothers and ignore our uncles and our fathers. And they can no longer ignore our children, because our children are going to be the ones who carry on this work. Thank you. I'm asking Jim Cooper to pay attention to what's happening, because we're no longer settling for crumbs. As of right now, 127,457 people have been deported under the Biden administration. One of the campaign promises was a moratorium on deportations, and has that happened? No. We see the introduction of immigration bills, and we see little support, little conversation, little announcements of how people are going to support these things. We will not just settle for young people. We want all 12 million of us who have contributed to this country to have some pathway to citizenship after contributing so much. And again, I repeat, this city has ignored us. This state has tried to criminalize us. But this nation will no longer be allowed to put us aside. And Benjamin, do you have a message? Benjamin, you want to stand up? What's your message, buddy?
I have a message. Shut down. If we don't get it, shut down. If we don't get it, shut it 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 down.
Thank you, everybody.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You just stole the show, kid. Man. All right, next. Is Rick ready? Is Rick here? All right.
Yeah, Rick.
Rick here, Sunrise.
You gonna make me follow Benjamin? Is that what happened?
Oh, yeah.
Right now? I'm not gonna follow. Oh man. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Woo! It's April, but it feels like February. But thank y'all so much for coming out here anyway. I'm gonna be really brief because we've had so many amazing speakers already. Anybody else watching March Madness? Basketball? A little bit maybe? Not really? Maybe just me? Well, in basketball, if you're down 20 or 30 points and you've got 5 minutes left on the clock, what you can't do is you can't take it real slow and slow down your offense and then shoot little two-pointers. You have to go big, you have to go fast, you have to do what you have to do to win because you're down 30. And I don't know if anybody else agrees, but I had a lot of support, but the last year was not a great year for me. And we are facing a historic moment, historic challenges, historic crises. That's just where we are right now. We have a global pandemic. We have a mass unemployment crisis, an economic crisis. We have a police officer on trial right now for standing on a man's neck for 9 minutes. We have a systemic racism crisis. And we have a climate crisis. I'm with Sunrise Movement Nashville, and we're a youth-led movement to combat the climate crisis and create millions of good jobs in the process. And these are all challenges that are where we are as a country right now, as a world, and this is what we're facing. And so I've been doing climate work for a while now, and I'm scared and I'm worried, but I've also never been more hopeful because it feels like people are rising up. It feels like movements are rising up and saying we deserve better, we need better, our communities deserve better, and we can make things better. And that's what all y'all are out here today doing. And so we're in this moment facing these huge challenges where we have to come together and demand more of our representatives and demand more of our government to work for the collective good, for the common good, to take on these common challenges. That all seems like pretty common sense to me. We're facing big challenges. We need big solutions as a country, as a people. And so one thing that we're here calling on Representative Cooper to do is to support and sponsor the Thrive Act. Now the Thrive Act is a economic recovery package. Yeah, we got signs. It's about climate, care, jobs, and justice. And it's a big package because we're facing big challenges. That just makes sense to me. The Thrive Act would invest $1 trillion a year for the next 10 years on fighting these interconnected crises, on having an economic recovery that doesn't leave anybody behind, by providing good, union, family-supporting jobs for people, by tackling systemic racism and the marginalized communities and frontline communities that are going to feel the impacts of our economy and our climate impacts. They feel it first and worst. It affects everybody, but there are communities that are getting hit first and worst, and this bill acknowledges that and confronts that. And it would cut our climate pollution in half by 2030. And so this is about climate care, jobs, and justice. And it would create as many as 15 million jobs over the next 10 years. It would basically, we have so much work that needs to be done to repair, to restore, to recover, to fight the climate crisis, that we could basically end mass unemployment in this country if we want to, because there's so many people that want dignified work, and there's so much important work that needs doing. And so we are calling on Jim Cooper to sponsor the Thrive Act. Now, with Sunrise Movement Nashville, we are supporters of the Green New Deal. And Congressman Cooper, in the past, has signaled his support for the Green New Deal. And what we think is that Congressman Cooper now has this opportunity to show his commitment to the Green New Deal, to match his words with actions. If he wants to show his support for the Green New Deal, we have an opportunity for him. He needs to support and sponsor the Thrive Act and take a big step down the road towards a real Green New Deal. So that's what we're demanding right now. And we need him to do it. We in Nashville, in Tennessee, in America, we need our representatives to do more to stand up to what we're facing. And we believe we can get Congressman Cooper to do that. We believe he knows he needs to do that. We believe with everyone here today, with a movement of movements, with a broad base of people from all over this district, we can signal that need and we can convince him to do that. So thank you all so much all for being here.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Rick. You know, one of the things he mentioned real quickly was we've been trying, but this is the first time I've seen so many groups in a coordinated effort, all doing the same thing. And one thing that we've all got to be coordinated about doing before we leave is get lunch. It's over there. All right. So one of those groups that we're all glad is here is Our Revolution. And so we have Joshua Jenkins.
Go, Josh!
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. When I say Medicare, you say for all. Medicare! Medicare! Woo! Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Jim. As he said, my name is Joshua, and I'm here on behalf of Our Revolution Nashville and Middle Tennessee. Today, I wanted to take just a few minutes to let you know why I'm here. I've watched for years as our own congressman has punted on his responsibilities to enact legislation that would truly better his constituents' lives. I have waited patiently for Congressman Cooper to forget about the old ways of doing things and to start finally considering us first. We cannot afford to be considered last in the equation after all the donors and special interests have had their say. I'm here because we deserve better. Congressman Cooper, year after year, has dropped the ball when it comes to supporting meaningful legislation that will improve the quality of life for those that he serves. For example, as you may already be aware, Congressman Cooper represents zip code 37208, which has the highest incarceration rate of any zip code in the country. That is why I was dumbfounded when I learned that Congressman Cooper recently voted no to legislation that would restore voting rights to incarcerated individuals. For far too long, Mr. Cooper has been too comfortable doing the absolute bare minimum for his constituents. I, like so many others, have been fighting for real progressive change. Unfortunately, Congressman Cooper works to stand in the way of that change whenever possible. We cannot afford to waste any more time pleasing the special interests and donors, while his own constituents' quality of life suffers because of it. I'm joined today by so many other groups that believe we can no longer accept this as normal, okay, or the status quo. We must bring attention to the lack of real progress, because when we do, we can start to build toward a better future. So what can be done? We must first inform others that real progressive change is possible. Because we have seen it, that's right, we have seen it in communities that have been revitalized and in states that you would have never imagined. These aren't merely dreams or some figment of our imagination. These are tried, true, and data-driven methods to solve real-world problems today. Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, a $15 minimum wage. These are all possible today. While Congressman Cooper is in office, we plan to mount public pressure so that he will finally listen to his constituents, not big money donors. You can always call Congressman Cooper's office and let him know how you feel about the job that he is doing. We would also encourage you to write letters to the editors, because Congressman Cooper has been known to read over those and take those to heart. These are small actions that translate into a big message when done in numbers. So we can start today to bring about the change that is so desperately needed in our communities. Lastly, I wanted to say, of course, Cooper will not be our congressman forever. One day we will vote in a new congressperson. And when we do, we plan to vote in a progressive champion. Someone who from day one has always stood up for the people. Someone who recognizes the true inequalities in our society, not because they have seen it on TV or heard it on the news, but because they have lived in and among them. Someone who puts constituents over donors, not because it's the popular thing to do, but because they believe it is the right thing to do. We are here today to make sure that Democrats win, and Jim Cooper is not fighting for what the 87% of majority of Democrats want. Polling has shown that Medicare for All is supported by 69% of registered voters and nearly half of Republicans. I'm here because long-term, this isn't working. And I am vowing today to help bring about the change that we so desperately need. If you agree, then I would encourage you to get involved. I wanted to give you a few pieces of information, especially for those of you online. You can text 81010 to OurRevolut. That's OurRevolut for more information about getting involved with our revolution. Thank you so much, and I very much look forward to bringing about the progressive change with every one of you.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you, Joshua. Another organization that's been here over and over is Peace and Justice, Nashville Peace and Justice. And for them, here's Elena Anderson.
Hey y'all. I'm just going to give a short testimony real quick to introduce myself. My name is Elena, and I'm a musician and community organizer here in Nashville. Last year, I lost my health insurance because I was unemployed, which makes absolutely no sense at all. And so I had to apply for TennCare. I applied twice and was denied twice because the system is not set up to help people. We need a new system, and we need Medicare for All. We need health insurance that is not tied to employment, because there's so many of us, especially in Music City, who are musicians, who are artists, who are activists, who are doing great work in this city to help us all thrive and to create color here, to make it worthwhile living in this city. And we don't need healthcare that's tied to employment. So I started a coalition of musicians called Nashville Musicians for Change to join these incredible progressive organizations here to show up for real change. And that's what we're doing today. I'm so glad to be a part of this coalition and this work. Since then, I've joined the board with the Nashville Peace and Justice Center. And so I want to explain a little bit to you about what they do. They bring together progressive organizations, and they help organizations get their start, like Nashville Musicians for Change. Their mission statement is as being a community-based coalition of individuals and organizations working to promote equity and to create a peaceful, just, and sustainable society through reflection, education, and nonviolent action, which is exactly what we're doing today, which is exactly what they've been doing for the last 9 weeks, I believe, right, Jim? You've been here for every Friday, last 9 weeks? And they're going to continue to be here until we see some change from Jim Cooper. We are, it's past time, it's past due time. So if y'all want to get plugged in and learn about the action that we want to see, you can go to our link tree for this coalition, which is linktree/CD5. That stands for our coalition in the Congressional 5th District. So that's linktree/CD and the number 5. And if you want to get signed up to hear more about these events with the Nashville Peace and Justice Center, there is a sign-up sheet on the table right over here. And just come on out next Friday.
All right.
Thank you, Elena. All right. Veterans for Peace. Last but not least. Well, Tommy. Yeah. All right, my name is Jim Wolgemuth, and I'm a member of the local chapter of Veterans for Peace. We have heard important voices on critical issues that are really important to the people of Middle Tennessee, like healthcare, like sustainable planet, like criminal justice reform, like responsible gun control, immigration reform, and respect. These are the issues that actually touch the lives of the people of Middle Tennessee. We want Mr. Cooper to get behind these people's agenda seriously and aggressively. Now we know what he does support. That's where I come in. We know that he constantly supports the National Defense Authorization Act. That's basically the Defense Department budget. The Defense Department budget, which, by the way, if you don't know, takes up more than half of our discretionary budget. More than half of our discretionary budget. It's not really defense. It's any number of things. But this year it's more than $730 billion. And that happens over and over and includes millions of dollars to establish a space force. A space force? In fact, Mr. Cooper has been the champion, one of the champions of the Space Force. God help us. Couldn't he be a champion for something else? Something for healthcare? For something that Middle Tennesseans care about? I mean, after all, Mr. Cooper, we're not Balkans. We're not Romulans. I don't even see a Mandalorian in the crowd. So the Congress, and then we get to the authorization of the use of military force. Now this was a resolution that was passed right after 9/11 to give the president authority to go after terrorists. Well, since then, and that was 9/11, that's coming up on 20 years ago. It has now morphed into the authorization that allows a president free rein to go after terrorists anywhere. Not just the 9/11 terrorists, but any terrorists anywhere. Thus, Biden has free rein to bomb Syria without going through Mr. Cooper or Congress. Or at least that's the way it looks like. Thus, we have Biden's bombing in Syria. That is why we are still in Afghanistan. We're still in Iraq. We're still in Africa. We're still in, fill in the blank. These bills and authorities pass with little or no discussion of cost or content. Now, in 1967, when I graduated from high school, for Christ's sake, Dr. King warned that a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense than on programs of social uplift is approaching spiritual death. That was 1967. And we've gone further down that rabbit hole. So I really do not think that it is too much to ask that Mr. Cooper really represents the needs of Middle Tennesseans and not the aerospace industry. I really think that it's not too much to ask that Mr. Cooper reject donations from companies who are not even in Middle Tennessee, like Caterpillar, to listen to the constituents of Middle Tennessee. I don't think it is too much to ask that Mr. Cooper listen and respond to us and not reject our views just because it costs too much, or that he hasn't read the bill. That's what he constantly tells me. He hasn't read the bill yet. Well, read the bill. Read any bill. Healthcare is costing us too much. Climate change is costing us too much. Guns are costing us too much. The criminal justice system is costing us, and especially people of color, too much. It is costing the people on the border trying to escape a homeland that can no longer be called home due to years of occupation and intervention by an oppressive United States. It is costing them way too much. That's why, and we haven't even, well, we did mention student debt and a living wage. So all of these are costing us too much. We can no longer talk about things costing too much, what we really need, like a Green New Deal, like Medicare for all, like eliminating college debt. And just one other thing, because we are Veterans for Peace and we have been working on a project. I was so grateful to see Senator Raphael Warnock and Cori Bush as they call out their problems at home with their own state. I don't think it's too much to ask that Mr. Cooper represent the people of District 5 in Middle Tennessee and call out the white supremacists up on the Hill when they're fighting to honor the first Grand Wizard of the KKK while trying to marginalize trans students who just want to play sports in school, for Christ's sake. All right, I used to be a social studies teacher, as you can tell, and I just go on and on and on. So, with that, just remember, we're back here every Friday, holding space with our to-do list, with the people's agenda, with a recipe for success for Mr. Cooper and the Democrats and the Biden administration. We've got it all right here. They can go down in history. Just do it. So, Tommy, you better get over here. I'll keep talking. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming. You know, if you want to come out next Friday, we'll be here noon to 1, and just holding space and getting honks and waves. And so, as soon as Tommy's done, remember his case is open. We've got lunch over there. I don't think anybody wants to keep the signs that they brought, right? So we don't need to take any signs back. So take what you can. I know those wanted signs with Marsha Blackburn. I got my staple gun. I'm gonna go to telephone poles all throughout the city. What do you think? All right, thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for coming.
All right. Again, my name's Tommy. I am a musician here in Nashville, and I have some stickers down here, and you are welcome to take several of them. They say, "The fate of humanity is in all of our hands." I am a firm believer that climate change is the biggest threat to humanity, to the survival of our species and the survival of our planet. And yeah, so I'm out here fighting for what I believe. This song is actually called Believe, and it is written for all of you who are fighting for what you believe. Oh, hold, won't you hold the line, and fall, will you follow me? We don't need anything more than this life we've been given. We can't ignore what we've done to survive. We don't want anything less than these changes we deserve. We can't forget to be grateful for our time. It'll be too late if we hesitate. Hold, won't you hold the line? Don't let us sink this time by anchors in our lives. And fall, will you follow me? We'll take this to the streets and fight for what we believe. We need to fix our mistakes we've made without concern. We need to be more conscious of who we are. We forget where we came from and take life for granted. We hold on way too tightly, suffocate. It'll be too late if we don't let go. Hold, won't you hold the line? Don't let us sink this time by anchors in our lives. And fall, will you follow me? We'll take this to the streets and fight for what we believe. Do you feel the weight of the world? We're standing side by side. We can hold it up and we will be alright. Do you feel the weight of the world? We've gotta do what's right. Will it all be worth it in the end? Hold, won't you hold the line? won't you hold the line? Don't let us sink this time by anchors in our lives. And far will you follow me? We'll take this to the streets and fight for what we believe. Will it all be worth it in the end?
Wow. Tommy, where can people follow you? Where can people... Go ahead.
So you can find me on Instagram if you search The Continuous Official. Again, please come and take a sticker. There's a hashtag on there. Just search that hashtag on any social media platform and you will find myself and my band. Again, thank you all for coming out. You're amazing, and I look forward to seeing all of you at more events. An organization that I love, besides Sunrise Nashville, and Sunrise in general, there's an organization called There's No Music on a Dead Planet. And they are UK-based. They work closely with a lot of different climate change movements. Climate crisis is a big focus for them, and I love what they're doing. They support musicians. They use music and art to uplift and encourage people to do the right thing and to make positive changes in their own lives. So I encourage all of you to go check that out, and if you can, support them. And support all of your fellow Nashville musicians, because I know there's a couple here. There was a couple here, and they're all amazing people. So, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Afton, any last words?
Let's see. Yeah, thanks for coming out. We've got our coalition still kicking and going, and maybe there will be an imminent primary. Who knows? Stay tuned. All right, thanks for coming out. We're really grateful. Please grab food. There's tons of food over there. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jim and Afton.
And we got to do a favor for Jane. She all wants us to go over and get a picture next to the Nashville Peace and Justice Center. I don't know, does the Our Revolution people want us to get a picture of everybody behind the Our... Okay, first picture in the sun, get some heat, and then we'll come back and get a picture in the shade. All right. Thank you.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. My name again is Joshua, and we've got
Lauren and...
Hi, I'm Jim.
That is Jim. You just saw Jim host an incredible event here downtown Nashville at Jim Cooper's office. We are going to go ahead and roll a video. This is the premiere of the video compiling all of the Fridays that we have been down here so far. So if you don't mind, are you excited, Lauren?
Very excited. I want to give a special thank you to Joshua, who not only gave an amazing speech today, but also for all of his technical abilities that made this live stream happen. So thank you, Joshua.
Oh, awesome. And we'll know for sure when we get home and click rewatch, because we're here in it, and in person it went well, so we'll see about that. But as mentioned, here is that video. Okay, we got about 3 minutes to go get a picture.
I've been having dreams, jumping on a trampoline, flipping in the air. I never land, just float there. As I'm looking up, suddenly the sky erupts. Flames alert the trees, spread to fallen leaves. Now they're right upon me. Wait, if I'm on fire, how am I so deep in love? When I dream of dying, I never feel so loved. I've been having dreams, splashing in the summer street, tripping, I fall in. I wanted it to happen. My body turns to ice, crushing weight of paradise. Solid block of gold, lying in the cold. I feel right. Wait, if I'm on fire, how am I so deep in love? When I dream of dying, feel so loved. Wait if I'm on fire. How am I so deep in love when I dream of dying? I never feel so loved. I never feel so La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Wait if I'm on fire. How am I so deep in love when I dream of dying? I never feel so. Wait if I'm on fire. How am I so deep in love when I dream of dying? I never feel so loved.
One trip to Amsterdam, 4 trips around the sun. Has it really been that long since your name was on my tongue? Down at the grocery mart, I pray I see your mom. 'Cause if I could get back to the place where you came from, think I could bring you back, body and soul intact. You be the boy behind the drapes, I'll be the magician. I'm always walking to the same old place, just in case I see your face. I'm gonna buy a drink and while I wait, I'ma eat my cake, make the same mistakes. I know that you don't think that I can be the one, but I can be your one. I may be acting crazy now, it's getting late. You took my heart away, but I'll be okay, 'cause in my dream world, I'm still your dream girl. No ifs, buts, or maybes, I'm still your baby. Ooh, I'm still your dream girl. Ooh, I'm still your dream girl. Sometimes I like to get a little drunk, just to have some fun and be no one. I kinda like the girl that I become when I'm all alone. Since you've been gone,